And we're back. I'm Dr. Yasser Sonbol. Let's dive right back into today's medical conversation. Welcome back, everybody. I'm Dr. Yasser Sonbol. I'm your host for Real Medicine, Real Lives. Do you love what you're watching? Don't miss a moment of any of the stuff that we promote here on NowMediaTV. You can get it live, on demand, anytime, anywhere. Download the NowMediaTV app, the Roku or iOS. Get instant access to all the programming. It's bilingual in both English and Spanish. I want to listen on the go. There's a podcast version for the Now Media. We're available online at www.nowmedia.tv. Breaking news is here, lifestyle changes, culture, everything in between, and business. It's streaming 24/7 wherever you are. We're back for here with Bryan Fetzer. We're digging into nutrition now because I think it's a very important part. Most people underestimate the value of nutrition when it comes to healthy lifestyle. And if you ever feel like, you want to eat like a bodybuilder or an athlete, I think this next conversation is going to change that. And welcome back, Bryan. Thanks for joining us today and giving us some more enlightenment on this.
Definitely a pleasure.
I think, in my own fitness journey, like I told you before the show, I lost about 80 pounds or so. And I think that the biggest obstacle I ran into was actually nutrition, right? I was working out, but I wasn't really making the progress I was making. And it took me a while to kind of adjust that nutrition aspect to it to make things better. So, there's a lot of myths out there about diet, right? People say, I stopped carbs, I stopped protein, I stopped fats, I did this, which, and there's all these fad diets everywhere, right? I've tried some of them. I don't think any of them are honestly sustainable. So what are some of the things that you would tell people as a nutrition person, to really unlearn that really doesn't help you in leading a healthy lifestyle from a nutrition standpoint?
Well, I think the word that you just said that is probably the key of everything is what is sustainable. Fads come and go. You look at some of the quote unquote science that was out there, 20 years ago. The food pyramid is a prime example. What we found that the food pyramid is actually not what you should be doing. Loading up on carbs and those kind of things, but eating more of a natural kind of lifestyle from an eating standpoint. And the one thing to keep in mind too, is that everybody's body is completely different. How I might digest and how I might respond to something that might be a high protein kind of carnivore kind diet might be very different from how somebody else might respond to that. But doing something that's sustainable, if you say that, hey, I am only going to eat, I'm going to eat this a specific way for the rest of my life, it's probably not really realistic. It's, people have things called work. They have things called travel. They have different, instances that come up in their life. So you've got to make things that are sustainable, and you got to kind of build an eating culture in your life where you're eliminating foods or food sources that are not optimal. I've said it a ton of times. One of the biggest things that most people need to cut out is sugar. We have way too much sugar in our diet. It's a root cause of inflammation, and it's not something that's good that you want to have in there. And we can talk about a bunch of other things that I would say to eliminate as well.
Right. So you would say to people, for example, carbs are important, protein is important, fat is important, and there should be a balance between the three depending on who the person is, on what they need, etc. for that.
Absolutely. And it's what kind of carbs, what kind of meats, what kind of proteins you're using. When you start talking about proteins, fad for a little bit was, get the fake meats and stuff like that. Well, that's fake. It's not real. The nutrients aren't there. The density of having some kind of a red meat or a fish or a poultry, those are real meats. Beans can be real, or can be real sources of protein. There's alternatives, but when you chemically produce something, it's not real. It's not what the body's meant to be taken in. So you've got to keep that in mind too. And then also the carbohydrates. If you're getting carbohydrates mainly from sugars and a lot of processed foods, that's not the carbohydrates you need. Your root vegetables, your potatoes, your rices, your grains, those are much better alternatives than the processed stuff.
Gotcha.
And fats. When you start talking about fats, I mean, beef tallow, phenomenal way of fat, ghee, real butter, raw dairy. Those are great sources because they're natural. The least processed that you get with the foods that you're taking, the better it is for you. And it's really, it's going to prevent a lot of long-term issues.
Sure. And so if somebody comes to you and they said, I'm not really training for anything, but I want you to give me some advice on how am I supposed to fuel my body in the right way just to kind of stay healthy? What kind of advice would you give them?
Well, I mean, I'm a big believer in fasting as well. I think doing some intermediate fasting, letting your body not just get in our standard, what we're used to clock that we have breakfast, lunch, dinner, and we snack throughout the day. Do something where you're kind of stretching your body a little bit from a standpoint of, I mean, I'm typically on a 4 day week where I do intermediate fasting where I don't eat until around noon or 1. And then, the other couple days, 2 days, I'll go for, I'll eat every day of the week or, every meal of the day. And so your body's kind of mixing it up because if you're just going out there and just, hey, I'm going to have typical American breakfast, the processed cereals for breakfast and whatever it might be, that's not necessarily what you need. You need to have, like I said, a balance, and you need to respond to your body and eat products that are less processed and more natural in state.
Gotcha. And so, if somebody wanted to make just an easy change today, to help their energy, improve their metabolism, improve just their lifestyle in general, what's one simple change people can implement that's not really difficult?
I think the biggest one, like I said a little bit a second ago, is eliminate some of the processed foods. If you have to look on a box to find out what's in it, it's probably not the most ideal thing for you. Eating vegetables that are pure, that are in a raw state or a cooked or grilled state. Getting your meats, your dairy products, eggs. Eggs are one of the most underrated sources of nutrients in food out there. They're phenomenal for you. They contain minerals and vitamins and protein that your body needs that are very natural source. The key to that, though, is making sure that you get grass fed or pasture raised. It's not grass fed, but pasture raised eggs where they're outside of the cages. Those are ideal. And with your meats, getting grass fed meats.
Gotcha. And the other thing is, how do you feel about calorie counting, macros, all that kind of stuff? I mean, people are really into that lately. How does that really play into fitness, weight loss, etc.?
Well, you should be worried way more about what you're eating than how many calories that it has. And because I mean, I could get something that's really low in calories, but it's ultra processed with a ton of sugar in it and a ton of fillers in it. Well, that's not doing anything good for my body. I want to find something that has the micronutrients and the nutrients in it that are going to actually help my body continue to improve and to repair some of the stresses and some of the damage that I put through it on a daily basis.
Gotcha. And so, what are some tips you can tell people, for example, let's just say, ways of planning better for better nutrition, whether it's grocery shopping, whether it's, protein shakes, whether it's cooking at home more, more water. How do all those play into a better and healthier lifestyle for people?
Well, hydration is a huge part. Drinking water and getting some water that's been filtered, and not necessarily just your tap water, and not really necessarily your bottled water, but invest in a filtration system for your home is one thing you can do. The other thing is when you're shopping, go to the places that have perishable goods. Items that don't have the 3-year sell by date on it, that you need to eat on a regular basis. So it's really shopping more frequently. We probably go to the store once a week to get what we want for that week, as opposed to trying to shop for a month or so at a time. The other thing is really with preparation. You mentioned, how do you prepare? I know when it's going to be a hectic week, taking a Sunday as a prep day or a Monday as a prep day where you're cooking a lot of items and preparing them, put them in simple packages so you can get them on the go. So that way you're not relying on necessarily fast food.
Yeah, I think that's a major obstacle for a lot of people working, right? It's really lunch is really a big, I think it's a big meal that, we tend to just overlook. And I mean, even for myself, as a busy professional, it's hard for me to plan for lunch, and so I try to figure out what I can eat. But yeah, meal prepping is definitely important. I did that for a long time, just kind of on my journey.
Yeah, I mean, that's where, I typically have some kind of a shake at lunchtime where it's, some kind of a protein, shake that also has fruit in it, to kind of supplement those hours for frozen blueberries, frozen berries. Berries are phenomenal at producing antioxidants and the nutrients that you need. So, I mean, having a shake that you can kind of take on the go is a great way to kind of prevent yourself from maybe putting something in your body that you really don't want to.
How do you feel about these meal prep services, such as, I'm sure you've seen them, Factor, MyFitFoods, etc., that sell you these pre-made meals with everything labeled on it, etc. Do you find those to be helpful for people? Do you think that?
Yeah, if somebody's busy enough that they can get a prepackaged meal that has been flash frozen that they can prepare, if that's going to help you on your journey, that'd be great. You just got to make sure that you read and figure out what's all in them, how much processing is done, and what kind of real ingredients do they have. And again, the labels, it's probably been the biggest kind of turn of events for me,
Mhm.
is figuring out that what's in a package, what are the ingredients. I try to stay away from seed oils as much as possible. We try not to put any of those, and get good fats and have less ingredients. And if you can't pronounce what the ingredient is, you probably don't want it.
Gotcha. Brian, again, this is great insight. I mean, I think this is a really important topic for people. Again, can you just remind the viewers, people want to start working with you, how they can find you, how they can contact you, etc.
Yeah, you can find me on LinkedIn is one way, or on Instagram at Coach Fetz. There's ways you can DM me. And then you can always go to ironfaithnutrition.com or scioptimal.com, where you can find either the two companies that I'm a part of.
Great. All right, everybody, we're going to take another commercial. Don't go anywhere. We'll come back with Brian. We're going to discuss some more topics.
Stick with us. We'll be right back with more real stories, real breakthroughs, and real lives transformed.